All right, so mean, median, mode, and range. All right, let's use this problem to find the mean, median, mode, and range. We'll do all four for this one. And find the mean, which we'll do first. Write that in there, mean. Again, that's the average, so I'm going to have to add these numbers together. 20 plus 17 plus 13 plus 20. We're going to add these together, and I get 60 out of that. So the mean is going to be 60, but we're going to divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4 values. And 60 divided by 4 is 15. So that is our mean right there. Let's go straight into the median, and this was one many students have questions with, is what do we do if there is an even number of values? Well, let's list them in order from least to greatest. So we got 13, 17, 20, and 20. Now, the two middle numbers are the 17 and 20. To find the median, I'm going to take those two numbers, 17 and 20, and I'm going to add them together. When I do that, I'm going to divide by 2. So 17 plus 20, 37. And if we divided this, we're going to get a decimal. So I'm just going to keep it as this fraction right here, okay? So we'll say 37 halves. Not that I expected a fraction on this one, but that's okay. Next up, we want the mode, and the mode is the number that appears the most. And I can see I've got two 20s, which is more than any other value listed. Now, if all four of these were different values, I would say there is no mode, but since I have the 20 that repeats, 20 is the mode. And finally, we'll find the range on this one. So the range is where I take the biggest value, which in this case is 20, right there, and I'm going to subtract the smallest value, which is 13. So that's 7. So the range is 7. And that is how we, and this is nice for a small list like this, but that's how you would find the mean, median, mode, and range for any list. Doesn't matter how big or small, the process is pretty much the same every time. All right, so a mean is also known as an average. So if you're like, I already know what an average is, that's what a mean is. So you're just going to take the values that they give you, add them together. That's the sum of the values. And you're going to divide it by however many numbers there were. Okay, and then that will tell you what the mean is. Now, we've done some division. In these examples, for this particular section, we shouldn't expect decimals, or fractions for that matter. We may see some, but I wouldn't expect any. The median is the number directly in the middle when the numbers are listed least to greatest. So when you look at median, it has to be listed from least to greatest. That would be the number right in the middle when they're in order. Now, if there's two numbers in the middle, which means you have an odd number of values, an even number of values, then you're just going to take the two numbers at the mean of those two values. So, or in the middle, which would be the middle of those two, okay? And then the mode is the number that occurs the most. That's the way I remember it, is mode is most. And then the range tells you kind of like the spread of the values, how big the spread is, right? Like, if, I don't know, like we could talk about COVID-19, right? Like I've heard of kids being affected from 8 years old to old people up to their 80s being affected, right? That's a pretty big range of ages that people are being affected by, okay? So these are kind of statistical measures that can help us to, I don't know, make conclusions. Yeah, stuff like that. Good time to learn it, you know? So with this set of values, again, for the mean, we don't need these to be in order. The only value we need to be in order is the median. You could say the range as well, but the mean we don't. Okay, so I'm going to take these values, 8, 14, 10, 16, 12, and 18. Now, if you wanted to add these together one at a time, you could. I'm going to add these vertically all at the same time to save time. So 8 plus 4 is 12, plus 0 is 12, plus 6 is 18, plus 2 is 20, plus 8 is 28. So I'm going to carry the 2 into the tens position from the 20. So 2 plus 1 plus 1. Sorry, 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So the sum of these values is 78, right? But I need to divide that by how many values there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, if you don't know your values up to multiplication values of 6 up to 78, just do long division. 78 divided by 6. So 6 goes into 7 once. 1 times 6 is 6. Subtract. There's a 1. That's good. Drop the 8. Make it 18. And 6 goes into 18 3 times. So the mean or average for this set of values would be 13. All right, let's find the mean on this set of values. So I'm going to take all four values, 18, 33, make that a 3, 19. My iPad's working a little weird. I'm going to add those together. 8 plus 3 is 11, plus 9 is 20, plus 6 is 26. So I'll carry the 2 from the 20. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7, plus 2 is 9. 96. And we're going to take that 96 and we need to divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4 values. 4 goes into 9 twice. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract that and get a 1. Drop it to 6. 4 goes into 16 4 times. So I got 0 remaining. That's good. And the mean itself is 24. Again, it's just a matter of adding all the values together like we did over here in black, and then taking that value and dividing it by however many values there are. So let's look at the median now, and this is a pretty big set of numbers. That's okay. Now remember, for the median, we should list this from least to greatest, and for this one, we got the 1 right there in the middle. Sorry, the lowest number is 1, so I'll list that. And so we only have 2-digit values from there. I'm going to look at the teens. And I got 15 and 16, right? Yeah, I don't see any other teens there. So 15 and then 16 in order. Now I'm circling these just so I know I used them. Next up, the 20s. I got 20, 21. That's it. So that's that in order. 20 and 21. Now the 30s. We got this 32.
Sal, you forgot 28.
I did, didn't I? Well, circled the wrong one. There we go. Thank you. 28, and then we got 32. So 32, I don't see any of the 30s. So next up, 40s. I have to repeat some of the colors there. 45, and then a couple 50s in the list. 52 and 57. There we go. Kind of need more space there. All right, next up, 60s, right? So no 60s, no 70s. We got 81 and 89. 81 and 89. And then finally 92 and 96.
There's 2 92s. Does that matter?
Did I miss? Oh, there it is. Sure enough. It does matter. It definitely matters. And I need to give myself more space. Let's see if I can fit it. 92, 96. There we go. All right, so next thing we need to do is to figure out the middle of these values, right? So we'll use yellow. All right, so I'm just gonna, I look particularly at both ends, okay? And I just cross them out until I get to where the middle is. So I crossed out the 1, the 15 and 92, 16 and 92, 89 and 20, 21 and 81. Again, I'm just going down through the list. 28 and 57, 32 and 52, and my middle value ends up being 45. So that is the median, 45. That's a good question. If there were two numbers in the middle, what I would do is I would add those two numbers together. It's like finding the mean of the two numbers. You add them together and then divide it by 2. If there were two numbers. Now, in this case, of course, there was only one, which was very convenient. But if there were ever two numbers in the middle, you got to add those two together, divide them by 2. All right, let's find the median for this set of values. Let's list them from least to greatest first, okay? So I got to start with my negative values first of all. So I got negative 14, negative 10, negative 32. Negative 32 is farthest to the left on the number line. And then negative 14, and then negative 10. So that's all my negative values. Let's go to the positive values now. 8, 11, 19, 22, and 13. So 8 is the smallest number amongst them. Next up, we got, looks like 11, right? And then 13, and then 19, and our largest value is 22. So the median is going to be the middle number. Now, in this case, let's go through these and just find the middle numbers, okay? So 32 and 20, negative 32 and 22 kind of cancel each other out in trying to find the middle. Next up, I got negative 14 and 19, then negative 10 and 13. So I'm left with two values in the middle, 8 and 11. So if I were to find the median on this one, I would take the 8 and the 11 and I would add them together, which is 19. Then I would divide that by 2. Now, this is going to give me another decimal value, but I'm not worried about decimals right now. So I'm just going to write this as 19 halves. It would be 9.5 if you wanted the decimal, but this is good enough for me right now. Now, I do want to find the mode for this one, or I apologize. Well, the mode, sure. None of the numbers repeat, so we would just say there is no mode. But what are we going to do about the range? Well, we can see the two numbers we need to use. We got the biggest number at 22 and the smallest number at negative 32. Well, it's always subtracting these, you guys. So make sure that even though it's a negative, you still subtract. Now, by subtracting a negative, that means I need to change that to a plus sign, right? 22 plus 32 is 52. So the range, there's an actual range of 52 on this problem right here, okay? Now, of course, we were only asking for the median right there, the 19 halves, but if you needed the range, because some values I suppose on the homework will include that, negative values, then you need to understand that you're subtracting a negative, which is the same as adding a positive. All right, the mode for these apparent test scores. Let's see. Again, we're just looking for numbers that repeat specifically. Now, if none of them repeat, then you could say that there is no mode. In this case, I do see some that repeat. I don't know if that happened on purpose, where these just lined up that way. So I got 51 and 52. I got a couple 12s here. Let's see. I'm not seeing any others. Now, in this case, again, I don't see any others, but we have 3 numbers that repeat twice. Now, there's no numbers that repeat 3 times or more, which means that we end up with more than one mode. 12, 51, and 52. So it is possible to have no mode if none of the numbers repeat. It is possible to have more than one mode as well, though, okay? So just keep that in mind. Some of the problems may have more than one mode when you're doing the homework. All right, and finally, the range for these test scores. Let's see. I guess that's the same test scores, huh? So I would just want to find the lowest number. Now, I would usually list this from least to greatest, but I'm running out of time here. The lowest number I see is 3. Okay, it's my lowest. And I also want to find my biggest, the biggest value. That works. So So I also want my biggest number. And I see an 86 there. I don't see any numbers bigger than 86. So my highest or biggest number is 86. The range is where you take the big number, 86 in this case, and subtract the smaller number, in this case is 3. So the range is the difference between these two. And 86 to minus 3 is 83. Now, if this was test scores, that's a pretty big range. But, you know, sometimes things happen and some students will score lower, much lower than others, okay?